12, put 11 somewhere. So personality, what do you guys think of when you think of a personality?
Bubbly.
So okay, you could think of types of personality, right? What makes something a personality though?
Great.
You have traits and they're constant, exactly. They're stable, right? So, you know, someone could have a bad day and they might be like really mean that day because they're having a really bad day. But does that mean that's how the person always is? No. So personality is stable, okay? We briefly talked about personality. If you remember, I said Freud believed that when does personality fully develop? By when? Age 5, that's right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about him today. All the crazy Freud stuff is today.
Oral staining.
Yeah, all that interesting, weird stuff. And then we're going to talk about other personality theories. Okay? So here we go. What's that?
Oh, super.
Yes, exactly. That stuff's fairly normal. It's it. Yes, it's it. Yeah, we'll talk about that actually really soon. Okay, so personality, collection of characteristic thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are associated with the person. And, I mean, it's a fancy way of saying something that you guys already know. Personality traits are those characteristic behaviors and feelings that the person has. And then a state, a personality state, is like a small period of time. Like if you're in a state of mania, you're manic for that small period of time. So a state is temporary behaviors or feelings that depend on the person's situation and motives at a particular time. Let me erase this. Okay. All right. So first part of the personality chapter is on a guy named Raymond Cattell. And he came up with this idea. He basically took a bunch of like adjectives. You could think of it as a bunch of adjectives. And he grouped them into 16 categories. He clustered them. What is clustering again? Not group familiar. Similar, right? Yeah, remember chunking was grouping familiar? And then clustering is grouping similar. So he grouped those adjectives that were similar into 16 different clusters. And then he wanted to see like, you know, he said there must be something that's affecting all those, you know, all the, like, where you fall in that personality type. And that's kind of what he looked for. But really the only thing you need to know about Cattell is you need to associate Cattell with 16, and he called this procedure factor analysis. So the mnemonic I used for this guy is, hold on, let me find my marker. Okay. Is I think of 16 cats. He was a cat man. 16 cats, and then I think of 16, how you could factor it. It's like an easy number to factor, right? So 16, you factor into 4s, and then those factor into 2s, and so I think of factor analysis. That's the mnemonic, okay? Maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's not too bad. Okay, the next part of personality is another theory that says that personality could kind of be divided into 5 traits, and depending on where you fall on each trait, that determines your personality. And this is called the Big 5 theory of personality. They believe, so you don't have to know the names, but McCrae and Costa believe that your personality develops throughout your childhood and young adulthood and remains stable, especially after about age 30. I think this is a more realistic explanation. I don't know. I wouldn't think your personality would develop by age 5. You see some of it, at that time, but I definitely think it can change after that. So the Big 5, the cool thing about the Big 5 is if you rearrange the words, you could actually spell a word. So this would be like an acronym, an acronym with the first letter of each one. What does it spell? Ocean. It spells ocean. Good. Okay. So O stands for what?
Openness to experience.
Openness to experience. So we'll just say openness. What does it mean to be open to experiences?
Open-minded.
Open-minded. You're willing to
Experiment.
try new things. Yeah, experiment and try new things. Okay. Is it good to be like super, super open to trying new things? No, because that could get you into trouble, right? Is it good to be like never want to try new things? No. So with all of them, you'll find like there should be a balance, but some are associated with success when they're high, and some are associated with success when they're low. Okay? What's the next one? What's C? Conscientiousness. Have you guys heard that term before? So a lot of you guys are conscientious. What that means is you're very disciplined. Okay? What does that mean, disciplined?
Well-behaved.
It's well behaved, but it's also like getting your stuff done. You know what I mean? So, you know you have a spring break packet to do, and so you say, okay, I'm gonna do this 2 hours on Monday. I'm gonna do, whatever it is. Some of you I know maybe started Thursday, but you got it done. So, discipline is when you kind of set goals and you make sure you meet them, and you take the time to work on things, like you're kind of hardworking in that way. Okay? The next one is, what's E?
Extra.
Extroversion. Not extra. What does it mean to be extroverted?
Outgoing.
Yeah, to be outgoing. Like social, right? Is it good to be like so outgoing that all you're doing is talking to people all day long?
No.
Probably not. Is it good to be the complete opposite?
No. Introvert.
No. Okay, right. The opposite would be introverted. Okay, the next one is?
Agreeableness.
Agreeableness. And what does it mean to be agreeable? Not rational. Like you just agree to everything, right?
Isn't that bad?
Like a yes man, like passive. Yeah. So what's the downside of agreeing to everything?
You don't have a say.
You're a pushover. You become like a doormat, right? You don't give your own opinion on anything. Okay, so this is agreeableness is like has to do with how passive you are. And then what about being like the complete opposite? Too stubborn, right? Like you're not open to anyone else's opinion, and that's not good either. And then finally, what's the N? Neuroticism. Have you guys heard of the term neurotic? If somebody's neurotic? So it means they're always kind of like worried and controlling and stuff like that. Okay? So overly worried. And what's the problem with being overly neurotic? Anxiety, yeah, like you're not having much fun, right? And then what's the problem with being the complete opposite?
You have no idea of consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Is it good to not worry about anything? No, that's like antisocial personality disorder, right? So yeah, you need to be aware of consequences. Those are important. Okay? So ocean, the 5 traits, and again, you could score high or low on whatever each individual one, and that kind of helps determine your personality. So these are just more detailed explanations and kind of like examples for each one. Neuroticism is considered to be a negative emotionality. People who are highly neurotic tend to be negative. Extroversion is considered positive, like when you're extroverted, when you're social, it's kind of a positive trait. Okay, so again, if you're high on neuroticism, you're worried. If you're low on neuroticism, you're calm. Okay, so whatever the first word is, that's if you're high on whatever it is. So if you're high on conscientiousness, if you score high, then you're well organized, you're careful, and you're self-disciplined. If you score low, then you're disorganized, you're careless, and you're weak-willed. Okay? Clear? Okay.
So if you score high, it's good?
For conscientiousness, yeah.
For all of them?
Well, no.
Oh.
Because if you're high on neuroticism, is that good? No. So now we're going to talk about correlations. So they've done correlational studies with successful people and what like traits they score high and low on. So without looking, what do you guys think? What do you think would be a successful person would score high on out of these? Conscientiousness, for sure, right? Because they're disciplined. Openness to experience. Why?
Because
You have to make new ideas and like
Yeah. And they're
Outside
like
the
willing to take risks and stuff, right? And what else? I heard it. Extroversion, right? Successful people are usually pretty outgoing, right? Because in order to be successful, usually you need to talk to people and relate to them well. And then what would they be low on? They'd be low on neuroticism because they can't be too worried about everything, then they won't get anywhere. And agreeableness, because if they're just passive and just doing what everybody else wants them to do, can they be super successful? No. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. They also found conscientious people have less diseases basically, and have a lower mortality rate. And you could think of it as like if someone is very disciplined, they're probably disciplined in the way they eat and the way they take care of themselves too. So that can make a difference. If you're more neurotic, that's linked to higher divorce rates, okay? And also more disorders and a higher mortality rate, okay? Because if you're worried all the time, maybe you're not that fun to be around, right? And that could get in the way of other things. Okay, cool. All right, so now we go on to psychodynamic theories once again. So a lot of this will be review. So psychodynamic, psychoanalytic, who came up with it? Sigmund Freud. And what was the icon that you guys had?
The iceberg.
It was the iceberg, good. And what was below the water? The unconscious. And what was above the water? Conscious. So, or consciousness. So, unconscious are all the thoughts, memories, and everything that we are repressing or not aware of, right? We're not aware of them, okay? Consciousness is everything we are aware of. So now you guys get one more new term, okay? And that's called pre-conscious. And conscious becomes a little more precise, the definition. So right now, what are you like aware of? Like what are you thinking of? What are you seeing right now?
Side.
The slide, right? Me talking to you, your pencil, you're aware of maybe the air conditioning, which is too cold. Raise a little bit.
It's too cold over
You
here.
guys are hot? You guys are hot?
That's fine. I mean, I'm just fine, so I don't know.
Okay. I don't know, it's always like blowing on me. It's cold. Okay, so whatever you're aware of at this moment, that's consciousness. Okay? And now we have this new term which is called pre-conscious. Pre-conscious are like the things in your pre-conscious. You could think of them if you want to. They're not stuck in the unconscious. You can think of them, but you're just not thinking of them right now, okay? So, for example, if I tell you, think of your phone number. Now, if you know it, you're thinking about your phone number, right? But like 5 minutes ago, were you thinking about your phone number? No. So 5 minutes ago, your phone number was in your pre-conscious, and now it's in your, you understand?
See.
Okay, cool. Can I erase?
See.
Okay, Freud. More on Freud. So Freud believed that we have like these three components of our personality, and the way they interact with each other helps determine our personality. So we had the id, so it's not pronounced ID, it's pronounced id. Okay, that's okay. I mean, when you read it, it looks like ID. So id, ego, and superego. Okay, I'm going to talk about the id and the superego first, and then I'll talk about the ego. So the id, and I like that it has two letters because it helps me remember what it means. So it has two letters, and it's actually like the 2-year-old in you. Okay? What are 2-year-olds known for throwing? Tantrums. That's why they call it the terrible twos. Do you guys know that? Yeah, they call it the terrible twos. So 2-year-olds throw tantrums because they're at an age where like they can communicate and they want what they want and they want it now, you know? And the way they communicate oftentimes is by like throwing a fit, right? Well, they can communicate, but you know, they're still getting there on how well they communicate. So you know, will always have these like impulses and urges, right? For example, if you're hungry right, you'll have the urge to eat. If you're thirsty, you'll have the urge to drink water. If you're tired in class, you'll have the urge to put your head down and take a nap, right? But you might not do it, right? Because why?
You know not to.
Because you know not to, like, you know, you're gonna miss out on important stuff. You're gonna make Mrs. Wydra cry. You know, like you know, it's just not a good idea. Okay. If the id were like solely operating you, okay, and I had a banana on my desk and you were hungry, you would just run up and snatch the banana. Okay. If you were tired, you might lay down in the back of the room and take a nap. Okay. So that's the id. Thankfully, you know, most of us have control over the id. The superego, let me just go over these terms before I go into the superego. So the id operates under something called the pleasure principle. It wants pleasure and it wants to avoid pain. Okay, like anyone, right? Don't we all want pleasure and to avoid pain? And then it uses something called primary process thinking. And I remember that goes with the id because primary grades are like kindergarten, first and second, and that's when you're really not very logical, right? Like you could be hungry, or let's say a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old can be hungry, and you know want food, and then the mom will say, okay, you know, we'll eat when we get home, and they're like flipping out and throwing a tantrum, but does that like help anything? No, right? It just makes everybody miserable. So this is like the illogical, irrational way of thinking, okay? So keep that in mind.
So, would that be like, I thought this is more, I mean, like, if, let's say you put your hand on the iron, you feel the heat, and you take it off. Mm-hmm. Would that be a part of that?
That's like a reflex.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean,
it seems more.
You could argue because you want to avoid pain. You could argue that because it's an impulse, kind of. But it's more so like you have like
your own judgment.
Yeah, like you're hungry or tired, or Freud a lot of times focused on sex because think of like sexual urges. People can't just go out and you know, like whenever they want, because they could get in trouble with the law, right? And it's wrong. And so so this is just like any kind of biological urge and your impulse to want to like get that. Yeah. Question?
Oh no, last summer I took this English class and she was explaining to us like the term id, ego, and superego. However, it was like more like English term. But she gave an example how the id, when you go up like on a mountaintop and you're looking down, your brain tells you to jump. But you don't do it. So it's like an urge.
Right.
It's not that you're suicidal, it's just that
right.
I know.
Right.
Jump out the car.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
The door in the freeway.
But usually it's like an urge that you want to, you know, happen.
Maybe it's true.
All right. So think of the id like the devil on your shoulder. Okay? So then what's on the other side?
Angel.
The angel. Yes.
So for ID, it's only biological.
Yeah.
So it can never be like I want money.
It's supposed to be
It
biological.
could be whatever you want though.
So
It could technically be whatever you want, but Freud, like when he was talking about it, it was biological. Yeah, it was biological.
it wouldn't be worded to make it sound like the definition of reflexes, would it? Like on a test.
No. It'll be clear. Yeah, it'll be clear. Yeah, like hand away from something hot, that's going to be reflex. Yeah, and that might even be a question about the reflex arc. Remember I told you guys? Like reflexes, it doesn't go to your brain, it goes to your spinal cord and back.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of question, if they're talking about getting your hand off a hot stove, they're probably going to ask about the reflex arc. Yeah. Okay, so going back to the angel on your shoulder now, that's the super ego. Okay, everybody say super ego. It kind of sounds like
Superhero.
Superman or superhero, right? So super ego, I think of Superman, and Superman has morals, right? Doesn't he? Yes. He has morals. Okay? So the superego is the moral component of you. This is the part that wants to do the right thing always, right? Do we always just operate under that?
Nope.
No. You know, I mean, realistically, no. But the idea is you have to balance between the two, okay? So you have these wants and needs, but then at the same time you want to do what's right. And so the ego is the part of you that balances between the id and the superego. And these are not like parts like that you could see in the brain or anything. It's like theoretical, okay? So the ego manages conflict between the id and the constraints of the real world. Basically between the id and the superego.
Could you
Okay.
explain that again, ego, what it does?
Yeah, so you have the part of you, think of like the devil and the angel on your shoulders, right? You have the part of you that's like, that banana looks so good, I'm hungry, I want to go steal it. And then you have the other part of you that's like, stealing is wrong, and
super
I
ego.
have to be perfect and blah, blah, blah. And then the ego is like the part of you that's like rational and is like,
Oh.
I'm hungry, but I can wait, an hour and a half or whatever and wait till I get home and eat a banana. Okay?
Is it kind of like cognitive dissonance?
A little bit. A little bit different though. But yeah, you can relate it to that in a way because you have conflicting thoughts, right? Yeah, you can relate it to that. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I know you said it already. But the superego is like the two.
The superego is like the angel and the id is like the devil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the ego is like the overall,
Like your brain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of.
It's like the resolution to like,
Kind of.
like urge you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Clear? Okay. So id, ego, superego.
Well, what about someone with antisocial personality?
Yeah, so someone
Their
with
ideal
antisocial personality disorder,
Yeah.
which one do you think they're operating under?
Id.
The id. Exactly,
Oh, I keep
because
saying
they don't
ID,
really.
but it's id.
Yeah. Oh, and the ego, so your balancing, part of you operates instead of under the pleasure principle, it uses the reality principle, guys. Where it's like realistic, like, yeah, I'm aware I'm hungry, but at the same time, like, realistically, it makes sense to wait, right? And then it uses secondary process thinking, where you go from being illogical with the it to being logical. Okay? Clear? Okay. Cool. More on Freud. All right. So Freud believed that the id, the ego, and the superego are in like constant conflict with one another. Like the id always wants one thing, the superego generally wants the opposite, and the ego is always trying to manage those demands. And if the ego is having trouble managing those demands, you end up with anxiety. He also believed like if you have repressed memories and you're not dealing with them, like you could end up with anxiety from that too. But he did feel that the id, ego, and superego, if they're not like, if you're not managing both well, or if the ego is not managing the id and the superego well, you can end up with anxiety. Okay? Okay. So the next part on Freud, these are actually pretty useful, and I do believe that these are in fact real. So these are defense mechanisms. Have you guys heard that term before?
Yeah, hit on the group.
Defense mechanism. So what does that mean?
Oh,
You protect yourself, right? There are things that you do, usually unconsciously, to protect yourself in some way, to protect your feelings or to boost your self-esteem or to make you feel better in some way. So the first one, you guys already know, okay, repression. Repression.
Protecting yourself.
Press it into the unconscious.
You press it into the unconscious. So if a memory is too painful, like the memory of doing your homework, you press it into the unconscious. It's like motivated forgetting, remember? So, someone could have a memory. In this example, Nate witnessed his mother being beaten by a mugger when he was 7 years old. As an adult, he does not remember this incident. So that can happen where like something disturbing happens when you're a kid and you don't remember it because it's too painful to remember. Okay, Miguel, head up. Okay. Clear on repression. And you could circle press and you could write press memory into unconscious. That's your mnemonic. Ready? Okay. The next one is called reaction formation. It's kind of an interesting one. So this is where you feel a certain way towards someone, but that feeling is not acceptable. So let me give you an example. You have a crush on your best friend's significant other.
Oh.
Not okay, right? So instead of like flirting with the person and acting like you like them, you actually do the complete opposite and truly believe, because you like, it's like you deny those feelings that you like them, like you don't believe that you like them, or you're unaware of the fact that you like them.
I have an example.
And so you actually are mean to the person. Okay? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So my cousin has had a boyfriend since she was in like 7th grade, and I started liking him when I got older. And then now, since they're in college, he's gonna break up with her. So I'm like,
Giselle.
but I've always acted like I didn't like him or I didn't care for him, so that proves that. And I was
Yeah. But now that it's okay, you're like,
like, no, I'm still not. I feel bad. Like if I were to
Yeah,
even
it's kinda
say
wrong.
something like that,
That's
it's like
kinda
really
wrong.
big.
And he's in college, so I
you're
mean.
breaking girl code. Alright, I'm really cool.
What if they're like aware that they like the person?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it could be that they're aware. Usually they're unaware, but as long as they're acting the opposite way, then it's considered to be reaction formation. Good question. Yeah.
I have a really close friend of mine, and like he admitted to me that he like had a crush on me. He like shared all his feelings, and he had to tell my boyfriend. And the very next day, he was giving me the cold shoulder. And I felt really bad.
Yeah.
But he's still on and off about it, but he felt nice.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know. I feel like that would be probably that defense mechanism. Just trying to make himself feel better. Yeah.
There was a list along of Freud. Like it was in the reading, and it showed an example with the football player, and it was different scenarios for how he reacted to like a breakup.
Oh.
And one of them was acting like he didn't care, but I forgot what it was called.
That's probably reaction formation because you're acting the opposite way that you feel.
Maybe.
No? Should I check?
Oh yeah.
There was like displacement and stuff.
Yeah, displacement, we're getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Displacement is like you displace, like you move to another place, your anger or whatever
Your
it is.
emotions, yeah.
Your emotions. So if you're angry at the girlfriend, you might go out and kick the trash can.
Yeah.
You know?
Or in the fear response, they were talking about
Not in
like,
that book.
how-
It was in the Barons.
Oh, okay.
I got you though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's got to be this.
Yeah.
Because whenever you act in the opposite way of how you feel, basically.
So what if you're convinced, like, what if you like somebody, but you won't admit it to yourself? Would that be like resistance or
That
just
would
denial?
denial.
That's denial.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking there's like a psych term.
Yeah, resistance is the one where you are getting close to uncovering the unconscious, and so you stop going to like therapy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be denial. Kim's right. Good. Okay, we get reaction formation. So I have a mnemonic. It's not the best mnemonic. So this is the one defense mechanism that has 2 words, reaction formation. And so I think of 2 words, two-faced, like you act the opposite way of how you feel. It's not the best. Also, Diana came up with a good one, but what's hard is you have to remember the person's name. So she made up a story, Richard Flanagan, so RF for reaction formation. Richard Flanagan has a crush on his brother's girlfriend, and so he's mean to her or something. But you have to remember Richard Flanagan, and that's kind of hard.
You could have made it like Richard Flint or something.
Flint,
Something
yeah,
short.
true. Yeah, she'll remember though, 'cause she like if you
Yeah,
come
like
up
when
with
you
it,
make it.
you'll remember it. Okay, let's move on. So there are 9 of these. So we're gonna go to number 3.
I made one for REM sleep, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah. What was it?
Okay, so you know how Nicki Minaj has always had beef with Remy Ma?
With who?
Remy Ma,
Remy Ma.
this rapper.
Oh, I knew she had beef with Cardi B. And
Oh.
another one. Okay.
I think the beef's over with Remy Ma.
Well, like, I just picture Nicki Minaj going like this to Remy Ma and saying, "Wake up, Remy."
That's
Oh.
so smart.
Remy.
Yeah.
That's cute. Cool. Okay, ready? All right. So the next one is projection. This one, guys, listen carefully. Okay. So projection is when you feel a certain way, but then you accuse somebody else, or you either feel a certain way or you act a certain way, and you accuse someone else of being that way. Okay? And so it's called projecting. So like, for example, you, like, let's say you're cheap, right? You're like stingy, but you accuse someone else of being stingy.
Oh yeah.
You get it?
Or when you like someone and you say they're stingy.
That could be an example. Yeah. Or let's say like you don't like your teacher, right? Let's say you don't like me. And then you're like, she hates me. Exactly. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way I remember that is I think of a projector, right? And like I feel a certain way, but I project it onto someone else, so I accuse them of being that way.
So then,
That's what I think.
with displacement, you're transferring to something else?
Or someone else. We'll get there.
We
Soon.
good.
Okay, next one, rationalization. This is when like you do something and you just come up with a bunch of excuses, like you explain away whatever it is that you did. So for example, you get an F on a test and you're like, it hurts, right? And so you're like, oh, she didn't, you could have some what's it called, external attributions and stuff going, but she didn't teach it well, and the test, it doesn't count that much of my grade, even though it does, and just like stuff like that, where you just come up with a bunch of like excuses and you try to justify whatever it is with a bunch of reasons. Okay? Understand?
Yes.
Have you guys heard that word before, like rationalizing?
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of explaining in a way you're trying to justify it. Okay? The next one is displacement. So I think of place where you take your feeling and you put it in another place. Okay? So your girlfriend just breaks up with you and you, punch the locker, right? Like you're upset and so you punch the locker. Thankfully not her. Yeah.
Is it because your super ego is telling you not to hit her?
Oh.
That could be. Yeah, that could be. But your id wants to hit something. Yeah, you can tie it to that. Okay? Or I suppose it could be a positive thing, like you win the lottery and then you go hug the next person you see. But it's usually it usually has to do with anger. You could have, if parents are fighting at home and then they take it out on the kid, like if they yell at the kid, because they're like, that's displacement, so those are all examples. Question? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. There are more. There are 9. Okay. Denial, I know you guys have heard of. So if someone's in denial, they don't what? They don't accept it, they don't believe it, whatever it is. A lot of times, addicts, guys, will be in denial. Like let's say someone who's addicted to alcohol, and if somebody calls them on it, then they might say, oh, I could stop if I wanted to, right? So they're in denial, like they don't believe that they have a problem, right? Like the phones and the social media. Oh, I'm not addicted, I could stop if I wanted to, but it's so addicting. Okay, also, you can get bad news. Like someone could be told from the doctor that they have 6 months to live and then they don't believe it. So or like if they find out someone died. Like this is actually the first stage of grief where you simply just don't believe it to be true. So that's denial. Yeah.
That was my mom when she found out she was pregnant with me.
Aww. But now she's
been because as I said before, she's been trying for 10 years, and
Yeah.
so she was in that denial, because my grandma found the pregnancy test. You're pregnant, and my mom was like, no, I'm not. And she went to the ultrasound, and then they told her.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Regression. So what is in Spanish regresar? What does that mean? To go back, right? So to regress, also in English, is to go back, and this is when you kind of go back to acting a younger age. So this happens a lot when, like, let's say you have a child who's the only child, and then they have a new baby sibling. And the child is, let's say, like 5 years old, potty trained and everything, but they have the new sibling, and that's kind of a source of stress because they were the only one for a while, and now all of a sudden they're wetting their bed at night. Okay? So that's regression, right? You know how when people are scared, sometimes they're like, "Mommy."
Yeah.
That's regression, right? Yeah.
But is it all like unconsciously, or do they?
It's supposed to be unconsciously, yeah. If they're doing it, like, you know, sometimes they do for attention, right? But this it would be an unconscious. Yeah. Yeah.
25-year-old kid 6. Mama.
Clear?
I said
Okay.
6 instead
So
of
reverting to a more immature state of psychological development, acting younger than your age.
example.
In the movie Sybil that I'm going to show you guys after the AP test, there's a part where she's like sucking her thumb, like in the corner, like an adult woman. And you know, part of that is it's another personality that is like younger, but I'm pretty sure the doctor in it says like she's regressed, and I don't know how to get her back or something like that. Okay, so regress is to go back. Okay, sublimation. What does sublime mean?
We're not aware.
What?
We're not aware of it.
A hidden message. Or
Subliminal.
Oh.
Oh, like
Subliminal is that, but isn't sublime like? Hold on, I'm gonna
Sublime.
double-
I know
Isn't
the
it
band.
like,
It's a band.
I know the band.
isn't it like a great feeling?
I like the band.
Yeah, no, it's good. It means good.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you're
So of such excellence, grandeur, or beauty as to inspire great admiration or awe. So it's basically really good. Okay? So sublimation is when you take something bad that happened, guys, and you turn it into something good. Have you guys heard that saying, making lemonade out of lemons? So if you're handed lemons are sour, right? But you could make something sweet out of it. That's what it means. Making lemonade out of lemons. Look at your ads. That's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. But it's where it's where like you have a bad situation happen to you, and you turn it into something good. Okay? Like think of like, you know, like Tupac, right? Had like a bad, you know, like a rough upbringing, and then put that energy into writing music and, you know, creating like really good songs. And that's a lot of musicians, I think. Kendrick Lamar too. Okay?
The good musician.
Yeah, the good musicians, exactly. So sublimation is when you channel unacceptable thoughts and feelings, because you could be like, whatever you went through could make you just a mess of a person, but you channel it into something good.
A good example would be like a breakup. You know what I'm saying? You take that as a lesson, and then you put that energy into school.
Yeah, like thank you next.
Oh yeah.
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 I mean, the whole song is about like how, like breakups, but then you learn from each one, and exactly. So another example would be, let's say someone is raped, you know, and then they have obviously like very negative feelings as a result of that, and then they use that energy into creating an organization to help other people who are raped. You know, something like that would be an example. So sublimation. There's the band Sublime, and I want to say the lead. I mean, I know the lead singer since has died, but I think he had a rough upbringing, if I'm not mistaken, and then used that to like help write songs. If you can remember, Sublime is like really good. Then this is the one where you do something good out of it. Okay, so either one of those, whatever you're gonna remember, you can write as the mnemonic. So I'm gonna give you guys a second to write that.
What about
Yeah.
turning lemons into lemonade?
Yeah.
Limes.
Okay, yes. So that was the other one. Thank you. Good job. That was the other one that someone came up with, I think, second period. Sublime.
Limeade.
Limeade.
Oh, limeade.
Making limeade out of lime. No, making lemonade out of lemons.
It's a real
Perfect.
drink.
How do you make it?
Huh?
It's a drink.
Limeade.
Yeah.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing as lemonade.
Simply
Yeah,
lemonade.
basically.
How do you make
Agreed.
One time my grandma made lemonade.
How do you make lemonade?
Yeah.
I
You
was like,
melt like you, on a
What?
in heat like lemon and sugar and water. and then it all mixes together, and then you cool it.
I never thought to do
So
that.
then where does this saying making lemons with lemonade come from?
What?
Sounds
What
good.
language?
Making lemonade out of lemons, that sounds so bad.
When life
Well, no,
gives you
because
lemon.
life gives you lemons.
It's a metaphor. It's not supposed to make sense.
Make
Okay,
lemons.
that's
It
so
doesn't make
dumb.
sense at the same time.
They're
but
not-
then it
they're
makes
not
sense.
Like you're
literal.
making something sweet out of something sour.
It's not supposed
Only
to be
because
literal.
you're adding sugar.
I know, but you know, whatever. You guys got it?
Yeah.
All right, last one.
Logically speaking, it makes 0 sense.
Whatever. All right, the mnemonics don't have to make sense. They just have to work. The last one is identification. So this is where you like identify with a group. You like put yourself in with a group to make you feel better, like to raise your self-esteem. And the way we do this is like we all do it. Like even wearing like a Birmingham shirt. It like puts you as part of Birmingham. Do you get what I'm saying? Or like, let's say, you know, you're in a fraternity or a sorority in college and you wear the letters, right? You're identifying with that group. You got it?
Oh, okay. So like, after breakup, you have go on a girls trip or something, or maybe you join like a club. Maybe
Joining a club would be
like
good.
joining a group.
Joining a group or, you know, representing the group with what you wear, you know, anything like that.